Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're all well. Thank you everybody who's joining me on the live stream. Hope you're all well. Sorry about the noise from outside. Motorcyclists wanting to play. If everything's okay and people can hear me, can I just get a confirmation of that on the chat? The audio is okay? No problems. I can see I've already got a few people backstage. Excellent. Hey, Parrot Boy. How are you? Alaikum assalam. So can just good, yeah. Thank you so much. All right, let me just get started. So we don't waste any time. So what I wanted to share for my part today, if you've seen the thumbnail and the actual, sorry about that, and the actual name of the stream, I want to look at the whole idea. You know, there's a constant thing that you get sometimes where in this time where it's mostly atheism and a lot of the attacks on religion are coming from atheism. Just give me a second. All right, sorry about that. Hope that didn't stop the audio from working. Is it still working? Sorry, can you just confirm that for me, somebody? Because what I did is I turned it off and turned it back on. All right, I think it's still working. That's fine. Okay, so one of the biggest critiques believers will get, they'll start, both the people who believe in God and those who don't, they play on this issue where, for example, if something has happened to somebody, somebody has been violent to somebody, has killed somebody, they'll be told it's a test, God is testing them, okay? Or the non-believers would say, why didn't God stop the test? Why didn't he stop that evil? Or why didn't he stop that destruction or that massacre, etc.? All that kind of stuff. So I want to look into that a little bit because there's a few verses in the Quran which address that and where we start to see the difference between what is really a test from God and what isn't. So we have this verse here. It's in Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 10, and it says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ فَإِذَا أُوذِيَ فِي اللَّهِ جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ. And among mankind are those who say, we have faith in God. But when such a person is hurt in God's cause, he makes the persecution of mankind, of man, this is called the fitna of mankind, as it were, God's chastisement, it says here, but punishment. كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ. Then the verse of course continues. It says, وَلَئِنْ جَاءَ نَصْرٌ مِّن رَبِّكَ لَيَقُولَنَّ إِن كُنَّا مَعَكُمْ. But if victory comes from your Lord, they will say, we were with you. And then it says, أَوَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِعَلَمَ بِمَا فِي صُدُورِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Doesn't God know very well what's inside the breasts of people? But the part I want to focus on is that first part, especially that phrase here. It says, جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ. Okay, and the idea is that the fitna and the persecution that people do to each other, and which is truly a azab at times, it can be a real azab, a real kind of punishment, it shouldn't be put on God. Okay, it's not God who is doing it. Okay, the fitna of God is not like the azab of mankind. So when you see mankind doing atrocities to each other, this isn't a fitna from God. This isn't God's testing. Okay, this isn't, you say, okay, God is testing us. Yes, it's still part of the test in terms of this world where you have people who are able to do that, but we don't say that this is God's will or he did that or it's his fitna. It isn't his fitna. His fitna is not an azab. God's fitna is not a punishment. So what is God's fitna, or what is its purpose, which will help us to identify, a fitna when it happens, and that comes from this verse, a very important verse in that same surah. In fact, Surah 29. It's a surah which has this theme about it, where it's looking at the fitna and stuff like this, that people will do to each other, and God's testing as well. So it says here, حَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do people think that they will be left alone after saying we believe without being put to test? So it's like in the previous verse where people just say we believe, we have faith, and that's it. Okay, people here want to say we have faith and that's it. God says no, that's foolish thinking. It just will not happen. Okay. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. But we, you are saying that, think that you'll not be tested, but we tested those before you. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ فَلْيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلْيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. So that God will surely know or mark out the truthful, الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا, and He will surely know the كَاذِبِينَ. He will mark them out. Okay, and the reason why I say mark them out is because the word, we'll come to that here, the word a'lam, comes from ilm and stuff, but a'lam is when you put a flag on something, so you identify something, and that's what knowledge is. Knowledge is identifying things, right? So when Allah says, when God is speaking, فَلْيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا, it means that God will mark out, it will become clear who is that. Okay, it's like a sign on them, like a flag is being put on them, because they've done the action, which shows that now they've done the sidq or they've done the kadhib. Okay, but the point is that the purpose of the fitna, of God's fitna, is that at the end of it, people can be grouped, not into worshippers or non-worshippers, not into believers or non-believers. The purpose is to mark up the sadiqeen, as-sadiq, the honest person, the truthful, the sincere, to mark them out from the kadhibeen, from the liars, the kadhib, the dishonest, the insincere. And I've already mentioned that. Now, sidq, of course, it's the grand virtue in the Quran. It's a very grand virtue in the Quran. On the Day of Judgment, it is the key virtue. Allah says in the famous verse in Surah Al-Ma'idah, قَالَ اللَّهُ هَذَا يَوْمُ يَنْفَعُ الصَّادِقِينَ صِدْقُهُم. God will say, this is the day where the truthful shall be profited by their truthfulness. It will benefit them. For them await gardens underneath which rivers flow, therein dwelling forever and ever. This is Aubrey's translation. God is well pleased with them and they with Him, and that is the mighty triumph. This is all for sidq, for the honesty, as-sadiqeen. Okay? And it says this day, al-yawma yanfa'u as-sadiqeen sidqum, this day it will benefit them, because often in this world the truth doesn't benefit the truthful. I mean, look for example at Hassan al-Malik, his sidq is harming him, right? And there are other famous people actually in Saudi who we've met while we were there, and they agree, they will say the same thing. And when you tell them, okay, why don't you say this among your to your followers, they say no, they can't. Okay, privately they will admit to certain things, but publicly they say no, you can't. Well, why not? Why can't they give this sidq publicly? Well, again, when they're not given that sidq publicly, they are saying what they know not to be true. Okay, they will instead continue to say what will benefit them. Okay, not what will harm them. Okay, true sidq, real sidq, is extremely difficult. It's not a small thing. If you think that it's something easier, it's just just in your everyday life, you don't lie, you say the truth, and that's it. No. The real sidq is something very high. Okay, very high. If you think it's simple and it's easy, then you have no idea. There's sidq against tyrants, sidq, where you and your family is in danger. Right? Can you do that? I mean, Hassan al-Malik, for example, he's been in prison many times before, but this time they've even put his son in prison. Okay, when he comes out, will he still be able to have that sidq? And of course, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. God does not expect of people to burden themselves more than they are capable of. Okay, but that's the point of this world. It will measure out how much sidq are you willing to give. Okay, how much sidq will you reach? Okay, what's your level of sidq? There's sidq, of course, which you must give in spite of your reputation, or the crowd. I wrote here crown. Sorry, the crowd that you want to maintain. There's even sidq which you need to have against the unknown lies of your own self. Okay, again, sorry about typos on this. I just typed these up very quickly before I come on. Maybe I should spend more time on it. So there are certain lies that we tell ourselves, excuses and things like this, and we're not very honest with ourselves sometimes. It takes a lot to be honest with yourself as well. Yeah, it takes quite a bit to be honest with yourself even, which is why the people of true sidq, the siddiqeen, they are right after the prophets and above the shuhada. In that famous verse, that أولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم, they are with those who God has shown His grace. من النبيين, the prophets, والصديقين, right after them, siddiqeen. Then comes the shuhada, okay, which most people think means martyrs, but it isn't martyrs. Shuhada are those again who testify for the truth. But the pinnacle of that, to have true sidq, the siddiqeen, that's even higher than the shuhada. And then you have the salihin, okay. And like I said, in this world, God's fitna will measure out the level of your sidq. Okay, how much sidq can you arrive at? Can you get all the way up to become among the siddiqeen or not? The other thing, so here, for example, there's this verse which is in Surah Al-Ahzab, which speaks of the faithful, and here it says al-mu'minin, which is different in the Quran than al-ladhina amanu. Al-mu'minin, when the word comes al-mu'minin, it seems to be more exclusive. Al-ladhina amanu seems to be much more broad, just meaning the general body of Muslims. It says min al-mu'minina rijalun sadaqu ma ahadullah alayh. Among the faithful, there are those those real men, rijal even says, rijal, real men who are true to their covenant with God. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ. Okay, some of them have fulfilled their vow. They've died. That's it. They've had that sidq and they've maintained it until the end of their lives. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. But there are others who have this amazing sidq, but they are still waiting for their time in this world to finish. وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. They did not change at all. This reminds me a little bit about, there's one other scholar which I translate a lot for in my channel, Adnan Ibrahim, who's an amazing person. I still have a lot of love and respect for him. But, he fell in a lot of people's sight a couple of years back, when he does a program in Saudi Arabia, and he went to Saudi Arabia, and, while he was there during the program, he just started praising, overly praising the Saudi people, saying that they are going to be the light of the Muslim world and lead them, etc. And the leaders over there and things like this. That's not at the height of sidq, to be honest with you. Okay, and it also happened when Saudi first started bombing Yemen. He used to speak about politics, but the very next day when that happened, he just declared that he will never speak about politics again. Okay, that this is an example of that, right? How much sidq are you willing to go? How much are you able to express? It's not easy, I mean, me myself here, I'm here and I'm sort of almost doing this more anonymously, right? I'm not showing my face, people have worries about their families, their jobs, their things like this. It's not easy. Real sidq, to be among the real men of sidq, it's very, very difficult. It's like I said, it's right there behind the prophets. So the next verse after this, it says, لِيَجْزِيَ اللَّهُ الصَّادِقِينَ بِصِدْقِهِمْ, so that God may recompense the صادقين by their sidq. وَيُعَذِّبَ الْمُنَافِقِينَ إِنْ شَاءَ أَوْ يَتُوبَ عَلَيْهِمْ. And then he will either punish the hypocrites, or he will repent unto them. Okay, إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Okay, so here again, what's being contrasted here are the mu'mineen, and the mu'mineen are real mu'mineen. Al-mu'mineen, not alladhina amanu. Al-mu'mineen are people of sidq, men of sidq. Okay, and God will reward them by their sidq. Okay, just like هَذَا يَوْمُ يَنْفَعُ الصَّادِقِينَ صِدْقُهُم. This is a day where the sidq of the sadiqeen will benefit them. Okay, and they'll be contrasted with al-munafiqeen. And of course, munafiqeen, one of the key attributes in the Quran is that they lie. And the munafiqeen, of course, in the Quran is a much deeper term than what people think. People think that a munafiq is somebody who is pretending to be a Muslim. That's not the case. A munafiq is somebody who can actually think he's a believer. He can be fully convinced that he's a believer. And يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ, as the Quran says. They think they are guided. Okay, it's another topic. Anyway, last thing I want to mention, difference between fitna and bala. So these two terms in the Quran, there's fitna and there's also another term, bala. And it seems to me, I haven't looked at this deeply. This is something that, for example, maybe somebody could take this up and contemplate it more. It seems to be that like who said that fitna, the goal of fitna is for God to see the sadiq from the kadhib, right? Whereas bala is more about the actions. So you have this famous verse in Surah Al-Mulk, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ بَلَا أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Which of you is best in deeds? Okay, so the bala that comes about, that is a test of your deeds. How will your deeds be? Whereas fitna is more a test of how honest you'll be and how truthful. Okay, and of course from honesty and truthfulness, actions will come. But the sidq is the main thing that's being tested over here. So going back full circle to that first verse that we looked at. ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله فإذا أوذي في الله جعل فتنة الناس كعذاب الله. And among those who say, we believe in, have faith in God, but when such a person is hurting God's cause, they make the persecution of men as if it were the punishment of God. They blame that on God. Okay, so that's something we should definitely avoid. But interesting, the next verse right after this, it's a throwback to to the second verse in the surah which we mentioned, when it says here, وَلْيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلْيَعْلَمَنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ. And again, the contrast is brought up over here, right? So that God will know those who have faith, and those who are the hypocrites. If you put that again with this about those who make out as if the punishments that are happening, the punishments that people do to each other, the persecution, the destruction that people do to each other, and they say, okay, this is God, this is from God, this is the جعل فتنة الناس كعذاب الله. The fitna that people do, you are making it as if it's a punishment from God. This is a sign of hypocrisy. So it's a sign of hypocrisy to think that way about God, that He is the one who is causing, that these massacres are from Him. Okay, so that's just what I wanted to share very briefly. Jazakumullah khair about that. All right, let's see. I wonder how many people are with me today. It's here 13, mashallah. Walaikum assalam from Germany, Adam. Let me just check the chat before I bring people on. And just a reminder for those people who maybe are coming on here for the first time, this is a stream. I'm trying to get more and more people to just come on and share any insights into the Quran that they've had, anything that they've gleamed while reciting the Quran, any wisdoms, whatever they can. So just it's for contemplation. Everybody's welcome. You can come in and say pretty much whatever contemplation you have. We're not going to be sort of just arguing against it or discussing it. We just want you to come on and explain it and share it with us, and inshallah we can benefit from it. And some people could possibly take it up and move along with it. Okay. Believers are truthfuls, atheists are falsifiers. Well, no, I don't believe actually atheists are falsifiers themselves, but yes, the true iman should be of sidq. I'm just going to check some of the chat over here before I bring people on. Okay. There's somebody who says, Brother Anon, I came across a verse in Surah Ibrahim that speaks against your theory. MashaAllah, yes, no problem. Come in and explain. It'll be nice. Death will approach them, but they won't die, and they will have grievous torment. Yes, absolutely. Come on, if you'd like to explain that, just come on. That would be really nice. Something like that. All right, okay. Let me check the people backstage and bring them on. We have here Surah, Sora. I'm going to bring you on now, okay? Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I'm very happy to be on.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. I wonder, what time do you have it where you are?
It is 6:15 p.m. right now.
PM, okay. You're not too far away from me. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you like to share with us today?
Just for some context, I'm not sure if you remember, but on Reddit, I was the one who asked for your transcript on the video of Qur'anic Islam versus inherited Islam.
Mashallah. Yes, I remember. How are you?
Yeah. Jazakallah khair. I found it very, very useful.
You said you wanted it for your mother, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
yes,
I managed to share it with lots of other people, and it was very, very useful.
Alhamdulillah. I'm glad. And your mother, what did she think of it?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure she's
looked at it yet.
perhaps a little bit, but eventually we'll get around to it.
Yeah, no problem. Alhamdulillah. Good.
So yeah. What I wanted to speak about was regarding a topic you mentioned in your recent video of God's endgame, which I also found very, very interesting and insightful. I suppose your sort of intention there was to answer what God's end game isn't, rather than what it is, because as we know, it's from the ghaib, something of which we have very, very little knowledge about.
Yeah, exactly. It was more, like I said, it was more to open up people's minds, broaden the horizons of a possibility of more than just we're just gonna, this world is gonna end. We're going to paradise. They're going to, inshallah, we're going to paradise, and they're going to hell,
Inshallah.
and just forever. That's it. You spend the rest of your eternity in just amusements and pleasure, and they spend the rest of eternity in torment.
Absolutely. I suppose,
So
yeah.
it was mostly to say, think we can think about things being more than that. It doesn't have to be that's it.
Absolutely. I suppose it was something that I've certainly thought about a bit before, because I think you also did mention it in your video of Qur'anic Islam versus inherited Islam, that the sort of traditionalist, if you want to call it that, perception of what the akhirah is like is quite simplistic. And I suppose it would cater to someone who is perhaps more materialistic and not perhaps as prone to intellectual thought as some other people are, perhaps. And these sort of notions of things like palaces and food and sort of satisfying these sort of more primitive desires would satisfy them, I suppose, for a short while. But it's more difficult to kind of think of any sort of fulfillment that you would sort of achieve later. And I thought about that quite a bit. And because for a little bit of context, I suppose for a while now, I've sort of been struggling with the concept of eternity. No, there was a point in my life. I mean, I'm not that old, but there was a point where I did sort of quite fear that just the concept of everlasting kind of life and just being alive with the same monotonous routine forever and ever and ever. I mean, that scared me a lot. And I suppose that the first thing I did to sort of ease myself regarding that thought is that ultimately my primitive brain, any of our primitive brains, cannot comprehend a concept as vast as the eternity. And I suppose just having primordial faith in God to sort of keep you motivated and keep you grounded for now should be enough. And then, wallahi, once we get there, eventually, that inshallah, we will be more at peace with the idea.
Yeah, the thing with this idea of fear, because I feel the same way. I would to be eternity, like eternal time. That's something which is just, it seems you could say scary. But the thing about it is, when you just actually start thinking about time itself, what is time? Time is you can sort of think about it. It's a way, it's a way to allow matter to exist in the same space, but not at this same time, right? That's really all that time is. Time is something which is related to the matter. It's related to the world of matter, right? Without
Exactly.
actual physical things, I don't think you could get time, right? Time is just the arrangement of something, like the space where you are right now sitting. In that space, in that volume, three-dimensional space, there was a time where other bits of matter were there. Now, without time, you would have everything sort of like in the same spot, which you can't have. So time is just a way of arranging matter. Okay, it's like a dimension for arranging matter, allowing one piece of matter to exist in the same unit of space as another piece of matter, but it just happens in a different time, at a different moment. So it's an arrangement in that kind of way. So that's why I think there's for those who really think deeply about eternity, I think that's why there's a sort of a fear or hatred of eternity, because we think of eternity in terms of time, and that is really all about matter. It's all about, imagine spending eternity in the world of matter, right? It's the same concept. They're linked together. So I think that's one way how I've thought of it. But I've of course thought of the same thing, that who would want to be in all eternity with no ending? What where would
Definitely.
that
I think
leave you by the end of that? Well,
exactly.
not the
Yeah.
end of
I
that, just
suppose
where would
there
that
is a
leave you?
misconception there, because it is somewhat difficult to try and imagine time in the absence of matter, because it's all we know
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms of our material world.
yeah. And that's why I'm a fan of any of these, which I put a lot of in my last video, and a lot of them, they will express that exact idea, that they went to a place of timelessness. There was no time. In one account, one person says, "Look, I'm going to explain things to you, and it will sound like I'm saying that this happened and this happened and this happened, But really, that's not how it was. You know, there was no time. There was no time. It was just like, and he said the phrase which I like, you know, a perpetual unfolding of now. You know, that it was all just
Yes,
now
yeah.
happening, right?
I found that very insightful as well.
Yeah, yeah. Alhamdulillah. Brilliant.
Yeah, I
All
suppose
right,
I suppose it
excellent.
is all relative.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is very relative. Excellent, excellent. All right, do you mind if I try and get somebody else on now? I've got quite a few
Oh,
people
absolutely, yeah. Thank you
waiting
so
back on,
much for
but
your time. This has been such
stay
such an
on.
honor.
You know, once I go through these people, if you want to come back on again, it'll be great to have you again. Jazakallah
Absolutely.
khair, and
Jazakallah
thank you
khair.
so much.
Barakallah feek.
Ameen, ameen. Okay, here we have Hector. Let me just check the chat again. Alhamdulillah for women, food, and palaces. Brother Anon, yes. Immortal versus mortal. Okay. Um, let me add you, Hector.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
Good, good, brother. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you so much for coming on.
Quick comment. The brother before mentioned that one video that about God's end game.
Yeah.
That the name, amazing video. I really enjoyed it a lot. I saw it yesterday, by the way. Really enjoyed it a lot. I'm trying to wrap my head around something here that I still don't understand. It deals about those who are successful. For example, in Surah Al-Baqarah, from ayat 3 until ayat 5, there's a list of things, I guess, pillars, I guess you could say. And then at the end of ayat 5, it says Al-Muflihun, right? The successful,
Muflihun, yeah.
correct?
Falah,
Now,
yeah.
yes, I'm trying to wrap my head around this word here and how it relates to Surah Ash-Shams and ayat 9, in where it
Okay, let
says
me.
Qad aflaha man zakkaha.
Zakah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can help me out trying to make clear this up for me. I don't. What I'm thinking is that what I was thinking is that this taskiya here that leads to success, is it based on what is mentioned in the ayat 3, 4, and 5 of Surah Al-Baqarah, or is it something else?
Let me bring that up so we can have a clearer
Yes.
picture of what we're talking about. Give me a second. So it's in the first which verses of Surah Al-Baqarah?
3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5.
Yes, 3,
Okay,
4, and 5.
let me add this.
Right, and
All right,
what?
is it being shared? Okay, good.
Yes, it is being shared.
Okay.
And what I'm thinking about is how do the two words like for success relate in these two? Because in Surat Ash-Shams, it states that those who purify their soul. This is a translation. Those who purify their souls, those will be the successful, right?
Yeah.
But here it's mentioning other things that I don't know how Taskiya connects with this. Like, for example, those who believe in the unseen, those who establish Salah, etc., and those who believe in what came before the Prophet and after the Prophet, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So قد أفلح من زكاها, it's all talking about the nafs, right? All of those
Yes.
verses, well, it's talking about the nafs, right? And the nafs is it's meant to be that part of the human being where sometimes it can either be something which pushes you to evil, like in one verse it says in the nafs al-ammaratun bisu, right? The nafs is that which commands to evil, incites to evil. Okay, so that's one type of nafs, and you can be in that kind of state, you know. So often called the bestial state, right? It just commands and commands. النفس الأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي. It says, except what my Lord has mercy on, right?
Yes.
But then you get another nafs, so it mentions different nafs. So in that verse, another verse which is mentioned about the nafs, it says وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, right? The nafs and he who fashioned it, and he gave it ilham, he inspired into it the fujur and the taqwa, both. So it knows the nafs, the human being, the human soul, it knows the difference between what is part of taqwa and what is fujur, what is wickedness. right? So you can go into that state where your soul is at that state where you're in between, right? Sometimes you're going towards what is fujur, and what sometimes you're going towards is taqwa, and you can keep purifying your nafs until it becomes, as the Sufis say, mutma'inna, right? And that is a soul which God Himself addresses in the Quran. Ya ayyatuha nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyah, right? O you soul which is at peace and tranquil, okay? Come back to your Lord. Irji ila rabbiki radiyatan, pleased with Him, mardiyah, and being and well pleasing to Him. Okay. Fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. Right. Enter you among my ibad, my servants, and enter you my jannah. So it's talking about that. I think in Surah Al-Shams it's talking about wa nafsi wa ma sawaha. Sorry, and thing قد أفلح من زكاها, right? The one who has reached that stage where his nafs is in a position of tazkiyah, right? When you're in a position of tazkiyah, these things will be part of that, right? What's mentioned here, right? You'll believe in the unseen. You will have taqwa, okay? The most important part, right? You'll be able to have taqwa. So, even that's tied in with that, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, right? The nafs has been inspired with its fujur and its taqwa. So if you purify your nafs until you just have the taqwa part active, and you are able to ignore the fujur, right, and not go into that, then you'll be among these, right, and you'll have falah again, right. So that the joining part between those is in that. It's in about purification and taqwa, right, gain in taqwa.
Awesome.
That's
Thank you
one,
very
something.
much. Thank you very much. You cleared that up for me. Thank you very
No
much.
problem, no problem. It's a very good thing to look into and think about.
Yes.
Okay, mashallah, jazakallah khair for bringing that.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Excellent. Alaikum assalam. Thank you. Let me see. Also, let me check the chat quickly again. Nothing in the chat. Okay, let me. Saeed, mashallah, Saeed again. Good to see you. Let me add you. Assalamu alaikum, Saeed.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
Excellent, very good. By the way, remember last time? I think you were the one who brought that verse about those who the covenant taken with the children of Adam. Yeah.
Yes. Primordial control. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned about that again in the comments, and it reminded me of a point which I should have mentioned. That in that verse, I can't remember which verse it is, but in that verse where the hujjah which is being said, it's about Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? So in that verse says, "An taqulu Yawm al-Qiyamati in kunna an hadha ghafilin," so that you will not say on the day of judgment that you were unaware of this. All right, so it's something which seems to be specific on the day of judgment. That's on the day of judgment that we will definitely all remember that, and then then it can be something that can be said against us. Which brings a sort of a different point. Okay, if you have had if you've been through something, okay, and then you forget it, sort of you've made a covenant, you've made a promise, okay, and by virtue of that promise you've gone into sort of this world. Right, and then you don't have that promise in your mind, but it was through that promise that you entered this world. When you leave this world, okay, that is still, I think it's still binding, right? You say, yeah. Go ahead.
To be honest, I don't think it is binding, because to be perfectly honest, we do not remember our life or our existence before we were brought on here. We don't even remember our existence in the wombs of our mothers. It's So it's kind of like you went something happened, and then God knows you go into coma. Okay, you agreed upon something, then you go into coma. You wake up from your coma. You don't remember anything. You trying to find God or whatever. I'm sure people have this this kind of inner motivation to find something, to find eternal. I do believe in this, at least most of us. But again, when it's so, for example, how about the tribes in Africa or something? I know that they will be only responsible for the conjunction, for the environment that they were born into and that they lived through. But it's okay, but again, it's, to be honest, it still doesn't make any sense. It's not like it doesn't make it, but it's impossible for me, to comprehend this, because the God is specifically mentioning it, and he said that will be.
It's fine, by the way, to say something that doesn't you don't understand it and doesn't make sense for you. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, true, but I'm sure that there should be something, because the God specifically mentions it and says you will be held responsible. So taking into account that He's just,
Well, it isn't. I don't think it says that he will be taken into, you'll be held responsible by that. But it's saying just so that, I mean, it's something. You're right. Something that needs a lot more thought. Definitely something which needs a lot more thought. But that's one thing that we need to include in that. That it's not that, for example, God isn't saying that in this world, right? For you're not acting right in this world. You should have acted rightfully in this world because this is something which you should have remembered. That isn't what has been said. It is basically, it seems to be something which is stopping as an against an argument for something on Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? It's to stop us from making a certain argument on the Day of Judgment. Okay, it's not as some sort of like evidence that we should have acted a certain way or not. You see what I'm saying? It seems to be something which is related just on Yawm al-Qiyamah to prevent a sort of like a response to God. أن تقولوا يوم القيامة إن كنا عن هذا غافلين. Otherwise, it could have, the verse would have kept that part out. Right? It would have been أن تقولوا إن كنا عن هذا غافلين. So that you don't say that we. So I'm just wondering. It's something for us to think about. Why is it specifically mentioning on the Day of Judgment?
I think the thing is that we will be judged on the Day of Judgment, and when we are judged on the Day of Judgment, we will be judged about the deeds in this dunya. So like we all are resurrected on the Day of Judgment, and God says you cannot come to me with this excuse because you've agreed upon this before coming into dunya. And then you say, oh, on the Day of Qiyamah, you say, oh, yeah, I did it.
Yeah, but on the Day of Judgment, you remember.
Do you think?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I have no answers for this, to be honest myself. But just something extra I thought I'd mention because I remembered it.
Yes, but it says like it looks like this applicable to the whole humanity. According to the general perception, it will be applied it can be applied onto everybody. So this is, but that's very interesting.
It's very interesting. Let's put out a call. Anybody who's listening live or later, if you know anybody who's got a good understanding of this verse, please come on and share. Right? Let us know. Anyway, Saeed, anything else? What were you going to come? Sorry, because I jumped on quickly. I jumped on you very quickly about that.
Yeah.
What were you going to mention when you came on?
No, the thing is, there's another website. I don't know if you know the author, and I'm really curious to know who is he. But it doesn't matter. But there's the website is called Quransmessage.com.
Yes.
Have you ever visited? No.
Yeah, I know that website very well. It's a very good website. It's done by somebody called Yusuf, which people often confuse with Yusuf from Qur'an Centric. It's a lovely brother called Yusuf from Qur'an Centric YouTube channel. Sometimes people confuse those two, but they are different. Yeah, but I know it. Qur'an's message.
Yeah,
yes.
It's another very good resource that I think could be helpful for many of us, because it talks about certain things, and that website, along with your YouTube channel, and along with the all the lectures by Ustad Hassan Farhan al-Maliki, is I give him a great deal of help to shape my understanding and my perception of the God and religion as a whole, because otherwise, to be honest, it's the most thing that the best thing that I like about Quran is that it makes you feel like you are supposed to use your brain, unlike we've been told for centuries, like, yes, you have to follow the format, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was the best of his of the followers, but because he did not question, blah blah blah, and he looked like he entered the religion without any giving extra thought about it. This goes completely contrary. God's saying you have to use your brain, you otherwise you'll be worse than the cattle, etc., etc. That's and some of the sources and along with your YouTube channel are giving me a great help, in this in going through this stuff. It's so jazakallahu khair. Thank you ever so much, brother.
No problem. Okay, thank you so much. Shall I
Thank you.
remove you out?
Sure.
Okay. Yes, thank you. You can stay on, and we'll see if anybody else wishes to come on. We have here a rational monotheist has come on. I'll put you on in a minute. Let me just check the chat. Hello, man. Assalamu alaikum. Hi, how are you? Let me see. This seems like it stopped in the middle. Example, we were asked before this life, do you want to take this challenge? Yeah. And we answered yes. So we cannot say. Yeah. The issue, yes, you're right. The question is that, while we are here, we don't remember that. All right. And on the Day of Judgment, we're going to be asked, so that you don't say on the Day of Judgment, of this we weren't aware. So I think it needs a lot of thought. But if you can come on and you can sort of articulate it in a better way than I can, then we'd love to hear it. Wa alaikum salam, Adriana. Good to see you. All right. Let me add on a rational monotheist. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, he disappeared, unfortunately. All right. We have here Aslam. Aslam, I'm going to put you on, all right? You're muted currently, but just unmute yourself. And come on. Assalamu alaikum, Aslam.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Assalam.
Assalamu alaikum to all of the participants. I just want to get an understanding about, like, in the Holy Quran, it mentions about fight and about jihad. So what exactly it is and how to understand this, the jihad and these things? Because it does mention fight and all.
Yeah. So, one thing to remember is that jihad and fighting are separate in the Quran, right? Fighting is called qital, and jihad is something else. Of course, fighting can be part of jihad, right? But really, it isn't that. When the Quran says to the Prophet, jahid al-munafiqeen, do jihad against the munafiqeen, he didn't bring out the hypocrites in Medina and fight them, did he? So it's different. But the easiest way to understand it is that this was going on over a 23-year period, right? The Quran was revealed. Okay, the first verses when it comes to qital that were revealed, they condition the rest. Which is that قاتلوا في سبيل الله الذين يقاتلونكم ولا تعتدوا إن الله لا يحب المعتدين. The fight in the way of God against those who fight you, all right? And do not transgress. Do not start the war. Do not be the transgressor. Truly, God does not love those who start wars or those who transgress. Okay, so that is like the first point. Imagine if you were to put up a list, write a piece of paper of the laws of fight in the Quran. You put point number 1 is this, okay, and then point number 2, the next points, of course, they come under that, right? They come under, just like any charter. If you have the UN charter, you have point number 1, point number 2, and they are sequential, right? You have point 1, then you have point 1A, point 1A B, point 1A, point 1A B, A C, A D, like that, right? So it comes under that umbrella. Yeah, even
so
that thing that. Yeah, go ahead.
But then how do you look the invasion that happened to Iran? These Arabs that they went to Iran and they because people put this up.
Yeah, no, that was all. Most of the Arab expansions were wars of aggression. They were wars of aggression, really. Just I've got one. There's a video on my channel with Adnan Ibrahim talking about that. Most of it was just that. It was just wars of aggression. It was not for Islam. It shouldn't have happened. Let me give you an example, okay? Might get into hot water for this, but for example, Amr ibn al-As, right? He's regarded by traditionalists, as a great Sahabi, right? He's the one who conquered Egypt. Well, when his army arrived to Egypt, right? The Prophet had made pacts with so many people. He had literally made peace treaties with so many people all around him. And I sometimes think it's because to prevent people after him to break these down. Well, when Amr ibn al-As brought his army, he wanted to conquer Egypt. he himself just wanted to conquer Egypt. When he got to a place called Al-Arish in Egypt, right? And the leader of Egypt, the ruler, he sent him the pact, the written paper, the pact which the Prophet had given him, statement of security, peace treaty, right? And he just tore it up. He tore it up and invaded anyway, right? So look, most of the expansions, they were just wars of aggression. You could say that some of the parts of the Roman Empire and some of the parts of the so there were Arab tribes, right? There were Arab tribes who were being used by the Romans and Arab tribes who were being used by the Persians, right? And they were oppressed under them. Okay, they were being used to like make what's that term where you use somebody else to do your war for you, right? You get like people to, that was happening, right? So you could say that to free them is fine, but only if you free them to bring them more justice than the oppression they are under. Okay, what did the whole of North Africa, Algeria, what did they have to do with the Muslims going out to They just became conquerors. Look, just like any pre-modern people, even some modern people like the British, the French, whenever they get power and they get unity, they went around conquering. The Mongols did that. Okay, the Chinese did that. Everybody did that. Okay, they became, they just became tyrant conquerors, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right,
there was call for it.
Thank you so much for the insight. Just wanted to confirm, and they put across this thing that they want to implement some kind of a Sharia. Is there anything in the Quran? Because they then give some evidence that some Sharia they want to implement or something like that.
Look,
And what exactly?
Yeah, what is Sharia exactly, right? Look, these are very, very big topics. Look, the Sharia to every people, God has given a Sharia. The Quran says, to each of you we have given a Sharia. Every people has been given a Shir'atan wa minhaja, a Sharia and a way. And if God had willed, He would have made you all one people. Meaning He would have made everybody together and given one Sharia. That's not what God wanted. Okay? He gave different Sharias for a reason, and He said, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. So race to goodness. Okay, just race to goodness. All the messengers, and this is something which Muslims need to keep in their mind, really, that all the reason why God sent messengers and books, as the Quran says, is so that mankind can establish justice. Okay, establish justice. That's it. That's the goal. Okay, even the goal, the very reason why the books were revealed and the messengers were sent was it so mankind could establish justice. لِيَقُومُ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. Okay, لِيَقُومُ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. It isn't so that you can have a Sharia here or this kind of Sharia. That's not the reason.
So this Taliban,
Sorry,
and these all.
You're cutting off a bit. There's a lot of history behind these kind of groups, where they've come from. All of these, they have a sect and dogmas which they have, and they think they have to rule the world or establish Islam everywhere. Blah, blah. It's a sort of a. There's a lot of history and reasons behind how these people are the way they are.
But Quran doesn't talk about what their purpose is.
No. Quran talks about people establishing justice, ihsan, being people of bir, of taqwa. It's not about ruling people. Okay, just guidance.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for the insight. Because past 200 years, this problem is going on. There is no solution to it. So that's why
I know. It's a mess, unfortunately. Just remember that almost every religion disintegrates over time, right? Just give me a second. Yeah, every religion, slowly over time, it loses what it was at the beginning. So that happened with Christianity, and the same thing has happened with Islam. In fact, the Prophet told us we would follow the way of those before us, right? In a very well-tested hadith, which has its links in the Quran as well. Anyway, thank you so much. Let me try and get a few more people on as well. Welcome anytime to come, okay? Okay. Let me see who else we have. Ludex. That's the door being opened and closed over there. Okay. Ludex. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. You need to unmute yourself. There we go. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I would just like to ask if there's any Islamic or Quranic basis for an idea of existence in this world, or a reason for existence in this world, beyond the hereafter, if that makes sense.
The reason for being in this world, yes, it's basically to be. It goes all the way back to the whole reason why God created Adam in the first place. He said, he said to the angels, "I'm creating a viceroy on earth, a representative." Okay, and the word used in Arabic is Khalifa. Khalifa is like somebody who you leave behind to represent you. Okay, so we are supposed to be in this world as representatives of God. So in that way, we are to be reflections of God. Okay, to manage the earth well, to be a deputy of God in this world. And I've actually put a video, a sort of long video, which sort of deals with this. It's called God's Endgame, where it's not just because the hereafter, a lot of people think that we're just going to be going to paradise or hell, and then that's it. That's the end of it. And I've put in some ideas that there's more to it than that. Okay, we are here. One of the reasons we are here is to be, tested and tried to God to see which of us is best indeed. To establish certain virtues. We're like people who imagine a parent who leaves their children somewhere and sort of goes away from them to see how they will behave when the parent is not here. Okay, and those who can behave the best or represent them the best where they are, then they have shown themselves to have the true sort of a true child to them, right? And then they can sort of utilize them in other ways. Okay, if that makes sense.
Right, it does make sense, but would you be so kind as to substantiate more so what this idea of being a representative of God means? And also, if it's okay, could you please kind of talk to me about how that might manifest in people who the scope of Islam hasn't reached them, if that makes sense?
And the people who the scope of Islam hasn't reached them. People are non-Muslim. Look, you can get people who are non-Muslim who are actually closer to God than people who are Muslim. All right, that they have the name of Islam, the tag of Islam, but they have all of the virtues which the Quran talks about. Right, the idea of Islam in terms of it's a religion, of course, like an actual religion right now. It's an organized religion. Some people are in it, some people are out of it, right? But when you look at a sort of an Islam which the Quran is calling to, what is the Quran calling for people to be? Okay, be kind to your parents, speak the truth, don't cheat, don't lie, don't murder, don't transgress, don't aggress against other people, be charitable. All of these are the kind of things which will make you a representative of God. The more you instill them, to be a shelter for the poor, for the orphans, for the traveler, to speak what is good, to testify to what is good, to stand up to what is to truth and justice. Okay, all of these ways are ways in which you can be a true deputy of God and a representative of God on this world.
Right, and does the Quran, or Islam in a broader sense, does it give I guess what's the word, like a reason, a reward, I guess, for doing this beyond the hereafter?
A reward beyond the hereafter? Well, it's
not beyond, but besides the hereafter.
In this world,
not beyond.
Besides, yeah. Well, think of it this way. Look, there is a certain a true joy in anything, whatever it is in being what it is, right? In being what it is, right? Everything finds true joy and happiness in its own nature when it is completely aligned with its own nature, right? And we were created in a way, right? Of course, the Christian tradition says we were created in the image of God, right? There is some sort of truth in that, but we are more a representative of God. We were created to be in that kind of way. If we're able to do that, we'll find the true joy in that. Okay, a true joy in being what we are. God really wants us to be nothing but other than what He created. He created us to be a human being. Just be a human being, a real human being. What when you think of the word a human being, being a true person of humanity, all right? That is what God created. That is God what wants us to be, and He's put us in this world, okay? And it has all of these different trials and tribulations. He's let the shaitan is around as well, and he's away in the hidden. Okay, so it's not we have to believe in the unseen to try to see who will be that. Okay, who can arrive at that? God isn't looking for numbers. Okay, He's looking for the quality, right? To see who can come back to Him with a sound heart, right? In terms of is there any reward in the hereafter or more than that? Like I said in that video of God's endgame, I've thought about this, and I thought that perhaps because the Jannah, paradise, everything in the whole all the enjoyments, everything is described in the Quran as a nuzul, right? A nuzul in the Quran in Arabic, it means that first thing that you give a guest when he comes to your home, right? So when somebody comes to your house, all cultures have this. In my culture, we give them a small sweet, right? That's all of Jannah, all of paradise, all of that is described as a nuzul, right? Just the first thing that you're given, but that's not the reason we're there. Okay, if you're given a home, okay, you're not given a home just to live there. Perhaps it's for something else, all right?
Right.
If that makes
So
yeah.
what it seems like is that this idea of altruism is, I guess, something that is reflected in the way that we are, as you said, deputies of Allah. And would you say that I suppose if there are any rewards, which I believe that they are, of just being altruistic, being a good person, would you consider those as manifestations, as a reason as to like a reward for being altruistic, I suppose, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. Would I say it's an actual reward? Yeah, that old saying, doing good is its own reward, right? Well, when doing good is your nature, okay, yes, it is very rewarding because you're getting down to your true self, right? You're getting down to truly what you are, right? That in itself is huge. Okay, it's reward in itself, right? So in terms of because I don't think it's as much as there is external rewards, right? But for the altruistic, as you call it, itself, is there an external reward? You mean in this world?
Yes, strictly in this world.
Strictly in this world. You mean in terms of how your life will unfold?
How your life will unfold, and also the effects that it has on you and how you're feeling, and mindset, that kind of thing. I guess
No, there
this
is.
idea of being happy, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. So it does, the Quran does says, do the people think that we will make those who اجترحوا السيئات, they gather bad and evil deeds, do they think we will make them the same as those who have faith and do good deeds, their life and their death? Do you think they will be the same? They will not be the same. God will not make them the same. All right. So there is a difference, and they start to move apart, as they grow older and move further in their lives, they move apart, right? Those who do good and righteousness, they move apart from those who don't, right? It does have an effect on their life, okay? Because it comes as sort of in a way back to what you are. When somebody is engaged and being what they are not supposed to be, it creates a real rift in the soul, right? You feel a real loss, right? You don't feel like you are what you are supposed to be, and that can be a terrible feeling. Okay, and also just in terms of life and how what things will come about you in your life. These things are there. That's part of the belief in angels. That we have angels active in this world, and they can help facilitate things or not, right? They can bring things towards you or not, and so there is a lot there. These things are mentioned in the Quran, that those who believe and do righteousness, their life, God will not make them the same. They will not have the same life. Al-aqibatu lit-taqwa, right? Even in this world, I mentioned in that video, God's endgame, that God says, that in al-arda yarithuha ibadi as-salihun, that the earth ultimately will be inherited by the righteous servants, right? Those who have piety. because the angels in the beginning, they said, are you going to put on the earth somebody who's going to do corruption, right? And he said, I know what you do not know. And part of the answer of that is that ultimately, despite all of the chaos and the corruption that humanity will do, eventually we will gather around, we will learn better and become righteous, and those people are the ones who will inherit the earth.
Right, and thank you so much. And I would like to ask, if just for the sake of, I guess, reaffirming my own faith, can these, can like the scriptural basis for what you're saying, can it be found in that video of yours that you mentioned, God's Endgame?
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit of it. If not, just send me a message, put me put a comment on there, and I'll be happy to answer. But yeah,
Okay,
I put quite a lot in there. Yeah.
Right, that's all I wanted to ask. Thank you so much for the elucidation.
With that, the other one as well, there's another video which tackles more along the ethical side of what you mentioned, of the purpose of life in this world, which I called Qur'anic Islam versus inherited Islam. So that one goes into quite a bit of that as well. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem.
Sorry, what was that video called again? The other one?
The Qur'anic Islam versus inherited Islam.
Qur'anic Islam versus inherited Islam. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, alaikum assalam. Take care. All right, let me see if I've got anybody else here who I haven't spoken to. All right, I think I've seen. Oh, we have. Let me get in Ashraf. We have Ashraf here. Let me get you on quickly. Assalamu alaikum, Ashraf.
Wa alaikum salam. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. It's I'm on my laptop, so my volume's a little bit low, but as long as you can hear me, yeah?
No, I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, based upon that word Khalifa, I mean, it, from what I know, it appears in Surah Al-Sad twice, isn't it, in the Quran?
In Surah Al-Sad, I
when
think
Allah
appears
talking about Dawood alayhi salam. Yeah, David.
إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاكَ خَلِيفَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ. Yeah.
Yeah, and in that context, he's talking about that don't rule in accordance like to your whims and desires, and obviously we've got that story of what happened with the general and that. So I mean, you're talking about obviously the hereafter and what happens then, but how about how history ends in regards to Islamic eschatology, with what's happening in the world, or how the narrative of history ends because with the Jews and what happened with Jesus on the cross and him returning and the Mahdi and the end game towards that political world order, how history will end in that respect. I mean, I know because I know only one kind of like scholar. He talks about, I don't know if you heard of him. His name's Imran Hussein. He talks about Islamic eschatology.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, a lot.
So I'm not sure if you're aware of his views or.
Yeah, I'm aware of him. Yeah, I mean the thing about it, most of that eschatology is based on narrations and hadith narrations and things like this, and quite a bit of it actually. I mean, I haven't been able to check this up myself, but I remember Adnan Ibrahim saying that that some of these hadith are literally almost word for word taken from Ahl al-Kitab sources, okay, so Christian and Jewish sources, which are not actually in they're not in the Torah or the Bible or the Tanakh. These are some other things, sort of like priestly writings and stuff. But generally, for me, no, I don't accept this. The return of Isa, I don't accept that. Mahdi also, I don't really accept this idea of a Mahdi. I think that we've the reason why the Prophet was the last prophet and the last messenger is because by then humanity had sort of like come into a state where they don't need that. We don't need that anymore. Okay, we're not going to need one person or a new scripture to unite around. Okay, these are sort of like the messengers and the books. They're almost like training wheels in a way. I mentioned that in one of the videos that once that's happened, sort of a lot of our last set of training wheels. That's it. So when it comes to that eschatology, if you look at it, it's all based around, doom and gloom, right? Where everything is going to be bad, and in the end, it's that, there'll be almost like the rapture. Even we have this in Islam, that wind will come and take the souls of all the believers, and the day of judgment will not come until there's nobody left on the earth who says La ilaha illallah, who has faith. All of these kind of things, I completely throw away. Just even, I mentioned that video just based on that one verse that God says,
I mean, I'm not sure about those hadiths, but he grounds himself on Qur'anic verses, and the two where he bases the eschatology are two verses which I find fascinating is about Gog and Magog, and the Qarya. The Qarya mentioned in the Quran, and he says that the Qarya is Jerusalem, and I think it's in Surah Al-Anbiya, I think it's verse number 95, when Allah's talking about a Qarya. So he says, if you put Jerusalem and you see what's happening in world politics, it's gained center stage. And he says, when Gog and Magog will descend from the heights. And so if you, when you read that and you find what's happened in the last 300 years and how obviously the two world wars and how they become center stage after Balfour and so forth and so on, it's interesting because there's, that when you explain the world that way, that's the only way that, and there is mention of the Yahud, twice causing fasad, and Allah mentioning that if you do that again, then we'll return back to our punishment. I mean, so in regards to that, the Qarya mentioned in there, and if you interpret the Qarya as Jerusalem, then that verse, no doubt, it's talking about Jerusalem, what's happening around the world, right? I mean,
like I said, for me, I don't look at it that way, but like I said, one of the purpose of the stream is to allow anybody to come and and mention any insights that they have. I've of course listened to those theories before. I personally don't find them convincing, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't find them convincing.
Okay.
And I find them, they're too, there's always, if you go back 200 years, 300 years, you'll find people who will be saying the end is nigh, right? It's all happening now. Right? It's very easy to do that. Even 100, there were people who were waiting, who thought that the day of judgment was going to happen on 100 after Hijrah, right? So some even thought that's when that was going to happen. But I don't see it that way. I actually
How about
think
Isa alayhi salam's second coming? I mean,
no, I don't accept that. Me personally,
you don't believe his second coming?
No, I don't. And like I said, one of the things I said in that video, I think that humanity could end up being on this earth for millennia to come, thousands of years to come. I don't see that God is going to end this earth until humanity has actually been a real deputy for God on this earth for a very long time. Okay, that's what he's set out to do, right? Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa.
Is that not Jesus who is referring to Isa alayhi salam when he comes back?
No. So this is even if let's say Isa comes back, all right, he'll be a khalifa for what? Until he dies, and then that's it. So the whole God creating Adam to become a khalifa on the earth, and now we've had like 2,000 years since Isa died, and before Isa there was how many millennia of humanity, 10,000 years, all of that for what? A few, for the second lifetime of Isa, and then he dies, he's a Khalifa on the earth, and then he dies, and then that's it. No.
But that's like the Yahud and the Christians. I mean, the Yahud are obviously waiting for a Messiah, and they rejected Isa. And obviously the Christians, they're waiting for him to return, right? What does that mean for their whole religion and how it's like?
Well, I mean, the religion, it's the fact that one of the problems of religion is that people box it down into these things as if they're the important things. They're not the important things in religion, right? It's all about birr and taqwa and ihsan and sidq and managing. These are the key things of religion. When it comes to these eschatologies, if it's true and it happens in your lifetime, then you sort of what to do, I suppose. And if it's not true, then spending so much time thinking about it and over analyzing, it's taking you away from being what you're supposed to be in this earth, I think.
Mm.
Right.
It's
So
just what's going on, right? Obviously, with Israel taking center stage and these evangelical Christians all waiting for the Messiah. So what happens to that? They just kind of like
I think it's a distraction. I think it's a distraction, right? Even if this was all happening, we should still be striving, for unity and taqwa among mankind, right? So that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was he was at war with the Meccans, Allah still revealed the verse, لا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على لا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى, right? Don't let the animosity of a people, take you away from being just. Be just. It is closer to taqwa, right? So even if you have these things happening, no, you should still be aiming for justice. And even if there's an opportunity for taqwa with people who are rebellious or transgressors, you have to reach out for that. You have to reach out for that. You don't just wait and because you think of this eschatology may happen or may not happen. But like I said, I'm looking mostly at a bigger picture, bigger worldview, right? And
because I thought, like, the previous scriptures, Injil, obviously they've been corrupted and Torah. So I thought when Isa alayhi salam comes back in the Quran, it does kind of hint towards him kind of restoring those back to their, to its true word, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't. I don't think it hints at Isa restoring these back to their true words at all. Like I said, a purely Quranic look at the issue of Isa, I don't think it can show that Isa's coming back. But like I could tell you what, you can message me about that on either Reddit or even in the comments on my video, and I can sort of try and walk you through that about those things. But generally, like I said, best thing is to have start with what we know. Start with the worldview of what we know. All right, we know for certain that God created us, the human being, to be a Khalifa on the earth. Right? Would you say that has happened? Has humanity been a representative of God on this earth?
Well, we're trying to get there.
We're trying to get there, but we're pretty far, right? Up to now, has what the angels said been true? They said, are you going to place in there somebody who will do much corruption and spill much blood? Has that been true?
Yeah, up to now in the historical process, I'd say we're at the blood stage and kind of figuring the rest out.
We've been at this stage, I think, for quite a while. So the way I see it, right, is that the promise of God, the plan of God, that the humanity will be a representative of Him on this earth. Okay, that will happen, and it will happen for such a long time. They will far outweigh the time that we've had so far. Okay, the time we've had so far of bloodshed, that time of humanity being a true united representative of God on this earth, it will far outweigh that.
So it's not going to be just for a blip, a moment in history.
No, I don't think so at all. That's how I see it anyway.
And each civilization will kind of have its own rules, right? From that verse that you mentioned.
I'm not sure. It could be because God says to each people we've given them Sharia and Minhaja, but God's sight is for much longer, right? I've said in that video, right? It's been 2 days since Jesus, peace be upon him, right? It's been 2 days, and it's been like 1.5 days since Muhammad, right? Because a day in the sight of God is 1,000 years for us, right?
So in the verse, Allah says "Shubbiha lahum." Yeah, He says obviously nobody knows what happened on that event.
Yeah.
But on other aspects of the Quran, Allah talks about maut, death, and He says that Allah returns the soul, and then for some He keeps the soul. So is it from there? Obviously, it's not clear, but it's.
But that's talking about sleep, right? It's talking about sleep.
Well,
when some people are asleep, يتوفى الأنفس حين موتها والتي لم تموت. It's I don't think it's related to that. The thing about Isa, if you just read carefully the ending of Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah 5, I think that clears up completely that Isa did not come back. He's not going to come back, right? Because otherwise he would have talked about how he went back. No, he said, "Kuntu shahidan ma dumtu fihim." I was a witness over them while I was with them. But then when you took me, you were the watcher over them, and then that was it. So that's basically how I see that anyway.
Oh, okay.
I don't mind discussing with you about this.
Okay, no worries.
Another time. because I
Okay,
want to.
inshallah. Anyway, thank you very much.
No problem. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for coming on.
Okay.
Anytime. All right. I think we're ready to close this up. But if somebody else would like to come on, if somebody was waiting, I don't know if anyone was waiting. Sorry, let me remove you, Ashraf. Jazakallah khair. If anybody else would like to come on quickly, maybe I can put you on because maybe I'm worried that somebody was waiting and didn't get a chance to come on. If not, let me go on. Yeah, here we have Brother Anon is telling us Sunnah rejectors have a knee-jerk reaction to the return of Jesus, miracles, and so on. Well, I don't mind miracles, but the return of Jesus, I just don't see anything to support that really. I see verses in the Quran which go completely against it. Ziriyab, salam alaikum, good to see you. I can't even pronounce that word. What is that? Millennialism was the driving force behind the idea of a Mahdi. Okay, yeah. Oh, this looks like a conversation you two are having together, right? All right, no problem. So I think I'll end this stream there. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming on. Please do get the word out to anybody else who would like to come on and share any Quranic insights of any verses that they have. For those of you who came on later, you can, watch this the beginning of this again, where I talk about, the difference sort of between the fitna of God and the punishment of people. And Jazakumullah khair for coming on. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.